Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the staff and public. In honor of the Chair Emeritus's appearance here, I have a mercifully short director's report. Just a couple quick highlights. First, with regard to Vision Zero, may have mentioned this previously, but wanted to remind you and the public that Play Streets is launching its second season this summer on neighborhood streets in the city. This is a program that lets residents temporarily transform their block into a safe, car-free space for children, families, and neighbors to come together, play, and get active. It's kind of like a mini Sunday Streets at a block level. In the first year, neighbors and community organizations created Play Streets events in Western Addition, the Mission, the Bayview, and Viz Valley. And we encourage folks to sign up. If you go to the sfmta.com website and just search for Play Streets, all the information is there. Got really good feedback from it. I don't know if the video was posted, but the group who did the Play Streets last year made a little video, and it gives you a great picture of what that what Play Streets is, and hope will encourage others to join in. At the last meeting, you all had asked for an update on scooters. So here's an update on scooters. The deadline for the permit program and pilot for people to submit applications was a couple of days after our last meeting, June 7th. As of that deadline, we received 12 applications, and which we are currently reviewing to see which, if any, will qualify for us to be able to issue them a permit. What we're looking at is the extent to which the companies demonstrate how they will minimize their impact on San Francisco sidewalks while maximizing transparency to the public. Specifically, operators would need to provide user education, be insured, share trip data with the city, have a privacy policy that safeguards user information, offer a low-income plan, and submit a proposed service area plan. They will also need to provide a plan that addresses, of course, sidewalk riding and parking. So again, we're pleased to get 12 applications. We will we're in the process of reviewing them, and we'll hope to be at a point of being ready to issue a permits if any of those 12 are viable as soon as possible. So we will certainly keep you posted. Next, I know we've been talking about this for, it seems like years now, but we are right on the precipice of the closing of the Twin Peaks Tunnel for the start of construction, which will start on next Monday and last approximately 2 months. We did get, I think I mentioned this last time, we got some good feedback and experience from the closure we did over Memorial Day weekend, and have made some changes to the service plan and signage and communications as a result. We have established temporary bus zones for KL&M buses in various neighborhoods of the city. I will note that has not gone without some complaints because of the sudden appearance of red zones that people were not expecting. I think we did not do the level of outreach for that one small part of the project that we should have, but nevertheless, we've been working with all of those groups, and most of whom have been very happy to hear that these are temporary red zones just for the duration of the project, and really to enable safe and accessible boarding for Muni riders. Something that has been part of the plan all along and part of the outreach, but is just now getting some attention, is also the fact that the NX Judah Express service will not be operating during this 2-month period. We just simply don't have enough operators and buses to be able to provide the service for the tunnel, as well as continue to run the NX, but we will have extra service on the N Judah. And so we've been really stepping up outreach on that part as well to make sure that no NX customers are caught unawares. We've been flooding through every channel with people, with information, with signage, all aspects now of the program to make sure that everybody knows what's happening, what to expect on Monday, and we'll have lots of folks out and about on Monday and ongoing to make sure in multiple languages that people have all the information they need about how to get around and what the impacts are. So again, we appreciate that it will be inconvenient for people, during this 2 months, but it's really important work that is going to make the system more reliable and safer, and we are doing our very best to minimize that inconvenience. So we thank everybody in advance for their patience. Couple other quick notes on our 2 BRT projects and on Van Ness. We will start, as we finish one of the first phases of work, we will start extending into a second phase, which means folks will see more of the street space taken up for construction. This is the most disruptive part. It's the underground utility work, either installing new or relocating. So it is pretty disruptive, but it's the expansion of the work zones is a good sign in a way. That means that the work is progressing. We are on track right now to be complete at the end of 2020. We continue to work internally and with the contractor to see what we can do to accelerate the schedule on that. But people will start to see changes out on the streets in the next month or so. And then with regard to Geary, the final, we secured just last Friday the final step in terms of federal approval of the project. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Transit Administration published in the Federal Register their final record of decision, which is kind of the final thumbs up from the federal government in terms of the NEPA process for the Geary BRT, which really gives us the green light to advance the project. So we will immediately be holding some open houses this week. One Thursday night, 6 o'clock at the Tenderloin Community School Multipurpose Room at 627 Turk. And then again, Saturday, 2 p.m. at Hamilton Rec Center to solicit feedback from the public on the first phase of the project, which is the phase east of Stanyon, the construction for which could start as early as later this year, early next year. Based on feedback that we get from the public, we expect to be bringing legislation to this board later this summer. So that was a great milestone. I know it's been maybe a little bit quiet, but we really needed to wait for this approval before we could advance the project. So with that, we'll start to see some momentum on phase 1 of the Geary BRT. And then finally, this weekend, as I think everybody knows, is Pride Weekend, which is a big weekend for the city and certainly a big weekend for the agency. The Civic Center Plaza and surrounding streets will start being closed on Thursday in advance of the weekend events. We'll provide, of course, normal service during the weekend, meaning we don't have any construction-related closures of the subway. The subway will be in full service through the weekend. We are sponsoring the event. There'll be a rainbow-wrapped bus in the parade with a staff contingent, and there's many other ways that we're supporting the event. Most importantly, making sure that during all the various events that we keep the city moving for people going to and from the events, but also for everybody else who's not involved in the events, doing our best to keep San Francisco moving over the course of the weekend. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Director Riskin. The Twin Peaks tunnel shutdown, I know this is huge for us. This is going to be a big challenge for the agency to keep everything moving efficiently. I read in some of the outreach, and I think there has been very good outreach. I see it just about everywhere, every news outlet, every blog that I see, that we think it will add about 20 minutes to the travel time. Is that sort of our best estimate right now, and we'll be able to refine that down and make sure that all the transit apps take that into account as the estimates go out?
Yeah, so the information, all the next bus information will be functional for the bus trip. So people doing travel planning should be able to get decent routing information, and it's something that we'll watch closely. We did adjust signal timing on Upper Market and Portola to help minimize the additional time, but I mean, there's a reason that we have that rail tunnel, because it makes it a lot faster to get to and from the west side from downtown. So it will certainly be slower. We're doing everything we can through the staging and the management and traffic control and signal adjustments to minimize that time delta, but there will be one, and I think that the real-time information should reflect that.
Vice Chair Heineke.
So on the scooter application process, One thing I didn't hear in the list, but I assume it's part of the list, is how they're going to address rider safety, particularly helmets, and is that all fall under the rubric of the sort of training and that sort of thing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. So we've asked for, and there's a lot of information on our website in terms of what we've asked for, a lot of information from these companies, and safety is the number one issue for us.
Excellent. And I know that, but my question was more oriented at the rider safety. Of course, pedestrian safety is important too. And then on the Twin Peaks tunnel closure, I agree. It's hard to get on the train. You and I were on there a couple days ago together without seeing the signs. But one thing we had talked about was announcements on the trains. Is that going to be possible with our current radio system, or will we not be able to implement that in time?
I don't know offhand. I know the idea that it was either yours or former Director Ramos of having things hanging actually in the vehicles is something that we're doing. If it's at all possible for us to do announcements, we will do that. I know we don't have the new radio.
Right.
We only have it in a very few trains. That would lend itself to that, but we can do announcements at least through the control center.
Yeah, I think, just the week before, even if just limited to rush hour times, I mean, you can't have it going all the time, or maybe you can, but the goal is that when you and I are at Forest Hill Station on Monday morning, if no one's surprised, that's going to be a great thing.
Right. Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you for the reminder.
Director Borden.
And my apologies for missing the conversation about scooters, but I know we have a number of applications that came in. Are past violations going to count against the consideration of applicants? And then number two, are we going to look at like local companies or kind of smaller companies versus larger? How will that play out in the decision process?
So with regard to kind of past behavior, this board directed us as staff to incorporate that as a factor for consideration. So the answer to your first question is yes. In terms of, I don't think we have a explicit criteria for small versus large. If that was the question, certainly local knowledge will be an important part of and engagement. If you recall, a lot of the public comment that we got when this board adopted the regulations was about community engagement. So local knowledge and ability and proven ability to make those connections will certainly be a factor.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you.